Hello, my name is Tim Francis, and I'm going to be talking today about the CEO for Strom Ruger Corporation. Um, his name is Michael O. Pfeiffer. I'll start out by telling you a little bit about Strom Ruger and Company, what they do, what they manufacture, and we'll go into talking about Michael Pfeiffer and his tenure as CEO of that organization, what he did prior to that, and what he's done. Finally, I'll end up with what he's done for Ruger. Ruger is a U.S. firearms manufacturer. They've been doing it since 1949, and they have locations. Their headquarters is in Southport, Connecticut. They've got a plant in Newport, New Hampshire, Prescott, Arizona, and a new acquisition that should be starting to open soon, this year in Mayodan, North Carolina. And what they're known for is making firearms and castings to make golf clubs, for iron golf clubs. Um, the firearms have always been a quality product at an affordable price. Now, as the founders, Mr. Strom and Mr. Ruger, went on to retire and Bill Ruger Jr. took over the organization, he really didn't have a interest in selling firearms or manufacturing firearms, so he kind of let the company go. So back in 2006, they decided that they were going to hire a new CEO. And that new CEO was Michael O. Pfeiffer. He is currently the president and CEO of Strom Ruger and Company. He has a MBA from Harvard Business, and he has a bachelor's in physics that he got at the U.S. Naval Academy, which is kind of a funny story because he grew up an Army brat, so for him to go into the Navy and become a Navy officer is kind of a rebellion thing, as he puts it. So I guess a military person would find that a little humorous. He worked prior to working at Ruger. He worked for two different plumbing companies. One is Mueller, the other one is Watts Industries. And for a guy who's a plumber by trade, although he has some extensive business background, one wouldn't really think he would do well as a CEO for a firearms manufacturer. But the board of directors made it known that Pfeiffer beat out even a company exec for that CEO spot. So that's pretty remarkable for someone that's never worked with firearms before. He did have some experience with firearms. In the Navy, he worked on a rifle squad, and he prides himself as saying that he has fired larger objects than anyone else in the rifle or the firearms industry. And that's because back during the Cold War, he was one of the officers that got to fire intercontinental ballistic missiles in the Caribbean as a test type show of force type thing during the Cold War. So that's kind of another side of him, is Mr. Pfeiffer has a bit of a humorous side. What he did for Ruger, the first thing he felt he needed to do is he needed to get to know the product. So he spent some time during the week down on the floor of the learning what the parts were and how the parts were being put together and how they were being manufactured, how they were being tooled. He took firearms down in the range and got some practice time firing with each one. And then he needed to get to know his people. Well, he did that somewhat by talking to his employees when he was down on the floor with them and working with them. But something I think is really cool, something that I don't think a lot of CEOs would really do, is for the first year he was the CEO, 38 different weekends out of that first year he spent behind a sales counter. Now, he wasn't back there peddling guns. What he was doing was he was back there asking questions of the distributors and the sellers, and asking customer questions. You know, a guy would come in and he'd say he wanted that Glock 9mm, for instance, and he would ask the guy, well, why do you want the Glock? What makes the Glock the gun for you over a different firearm here? And as people answered those questions, he began to get marketing ideas and future product ideas for him to take back to the company and ultimately start to progress from there. Mike Pfeiffer turned that company around. In record time, within the first few years, he turned that company around. Their stock prices increased sixfold, which is a lot for that short amount of a time. And what he did with that was, or how he did that, was with using lean process changes within the organization. He also says that the best way to get employees involved is incentive programs. So they started a profit sharing program that was so robust, and it was available to every employee, every contractor, every distributor. Everyone was involved. All pre-tax dollars that the company made and put into this fund that was available to every one of these employees from day one. And he really pushed that. And what that incentive program did was it inspired his employees. Even the lowest level person in the factory was trying to come up with ways to cut cost and to streamline procedures. Anything to save money, anything to bolster that profit sharing plan. And to me, that is just remarkable for someone to understand people and understand his product in such a short amount of time as this person has. In 2006, when Mike Ruger took over as CEO, Ruger was dead last in U.S. manufacturers. Everyone was selling more products than they were. And now they are number 4 in the nation for selling products because of this man and his leadership abilities. He came in, yes, he had a formal leadership role, formal power used as the CEO, but as people saw what he was doing, that legitimate power came out, and he became an expert. And then the referent power came forward, and it was just, it was absolutely incredible to read about everything that this guy did for that company. So to conclude, it takes more than knowledge to be a good CEO, and to have good leadership. It takes compassion for people. And I know I'll never be in a position to save a company from failure, such as Mike Pfeiffer was. But if I ever were to be put into that position, I would try to emulate Mike Pfeiffer's style of leadership so that I might have the same success. Thank you.